Ain't Steppin with Marcus J is pleased to introduce Emmy Award-winning illustrator for conceptualizing a public service announcement for the Dalai Lama. Works for Turner Studios as a broadcast designer, which includes TBS, TNT, Cartoon Network, and Boomerang. Ain't Steppin with Marcus J is pleased and honored to bring on the live line with us Brother Dawud Anyabwile. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Peace. What's going on?
We doing well. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How's everybody doing?
We're doing fine. Thank you so much for joining us. What I wanted to definitely do, and certainly your credentials speak volumes for some of the accomplishments that you've had. But what I want to definitely do is take some time and talk about a project that you've been working on pretty much for the better part of the last 20 years, a character by the name of Brotherman. Brotherman, dictator of discipline. Let's talk about him. Tell us a little bit, just kind of as a general, tell us about this comic, tell us about who Brotherman is, and let's just hear some stuff about him.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Brotherman was introduced in at the New York Black Expo in 1990, so that's 22 years now, and it's recognized as one of the premier black comic books of the contemporary age, meaning that I never say it's the first black comic book because there were other efforts prior to, but it's one of the more successful ones in our time that actually brought attention to the black image in comics, and not only that, being produced by a black family, because it was produced by myself, my brother Guy did the writing, my other brother Jason was production manager, and my parents even helped out by giving us some consultation. We were a lot younger back then, so the concept of Brotherman was this mythological world that we created called Big City, which this all black universe. So not only was it a black character, we created our own universe, which the character existed in. And the world he lived in, we called it Big City. So it was kind of like a metaphor. Brotherman, the character, and the city he lived in was all a metaphor of our contemporary existence, but placed in like another world, like an ethereal world. So you have this main character, Antonio Valor, who is Brotherman. We pretty much took that whole superhero concept in guise of, you have this character who, his day job, he's a lawyer, but, he's frustrated with the loopholes in the system and all that he has to go out and, create this alter ego called Brotherman. And he has no superpowers. His powers is basically his mind and his physical prowess. And so basically within the story, we dealt with, the characters were all also metaphoric of different ills and problems within the city. But I think a lot of our fans recognize Brotherman to, we had a different approach with the book. It wasn't the typical, what people may think. They think they may know what it is by the title, but when they get into the book, they saw that we were coming from another perspective that was kind of, I'd say kind of like, not science fiction, but more like fictional fantasy rooted in elements of hip-hop, elements of family culture, elements of, I'll say like the cultivation of the arts,
right,
and a lot of different approaches, black consciousness and humor and drama.
And that's kind of where I was getting ready to go as far as the conception and somewhat the inspiration and where all of that came from. So you kind of just said it, where you had a lot of things kind of thrown into a pot that gave us Antonio Valor, also known as Brotherman, dictator of discipline. How can people find him? I mean, I've been exposed to Brotherman for pretty much my entire adult life, more than 20 years. I've been familiar with them. I've got, a bunch of the earlier copies, and I'm not really a comic book guy, but I always followed this character. How can our listeners be down with kind of the movement, because that's what I want to call it, because that's how I felt when I never seen anything like that before when I first saw it. And when I talk to people, a lot of people have heard of it, but a lot of people have not.
Right. Well, first and foremost, I tell people to go to our website, which is brothermancomics.com. And being that I'm independent and I've been in a stage of re-release of the book because it was kind of on a hiatus for a while. The website is not where I want it to be actively. We're going to be doing revamping and stuff soon, but at least you can go there now and buy the back issues of the book. And, you can get my contact information from there, and read up some information on it. And that's also connected. When you go to the brothermancomics.com, and that's COMICS.
Okay.
Brotherman, COMICS.com. Along the top, you'll see a Facebook link that'll take you to the Brotherman Comics Facebook forum, where fans come and collect, and not only talk about Brotherman, like if you're doing something positive, we just kind of keep it open to kind of represent what the book represents. So you could be in there talking about something just positive, or, first grader that's making phone apps and stuff like that, something that people should know. We like to put it up in there. And I also have a YouTube page where I post, right now I've been posting digital speed paintings where I'll paint a picture, do a drawing, and I screen record it, play it back at high speed. And, right now I have a lot of those up there along with some interviews and things of that nature.
So the listeners can definitely get their hands on kind of the back stuff and things of that. So I'm going to get to the future in a minute, because I want to take a little bit of time and kind of talk about Brotherman. First thing, I just simply, is Brotherman a superhero? I mean, does he wear a cape? I mean, what's the deal with him?
No, it's funny because when the book came out, a lot of people did classify it or fell in that category of black superhero, but we never called it that. Even when we came out, we said he was a hero, but we never said superhero because he's not dealing in the supernatural. He's not radioactive or,
does he have superpowers, stuff like that?
Right. And it's not that I don't have anything against that, because I'm a big fan of that as well. It's just for this particular story, it was actually rooted more in the character tapping into strength that he has within. Because technically, all of us have, we have these powers within us that we all don't tap into. And once you reach to a certain point where you find the real self within you, which comes out in certain situations or just comes through realizations in life and things of that nature, you may eradicate fears or things that hold you back from being 100%. And this character represents that person who's tapped into those internal strengths, which are kind of rooted in, when I say spiritual, I'm not talking religious, I'm talking about holistic, meaning understanding his connection to the world and seeing that his community, big city is kind of a representation of any city USA, but it's not our USA. So the story is basically about this once great place that fell into decay.
Well, hold on, let me stop you, because when you said it's not our USA, what do you mean by that?
Meaning that since it's a fictitious place, there's no George Bush, there's no Barack Obama, Farrakhan. It's like Star Wars. You have another universe. It's another world that has nothing to do with our world.
Gotcha.
They have their own laws, their own businesses, and so it's kind of like a facsimile of what we see on a daily basis, but kind of an alternate universe, if that makes sense. So when we say USA in the book, in the first issue, we actually use the acronym Unlimited Social Apathy. So it's not United States of America.
Let me ask you a question right quick.
It's ambiguous land. I'll put it like that.
Let me ask you a question. You see cartoons on TV like Boondocks and Napoleon Dynamite. Would you be willing to get something of your comic onto a television screen? I mean, granted, the language that I hear in those two are racy at best. And I'm pretty sure the language you carry in your comics are not like that. Why aren't we saying something more positive, so to speak?
Well, I put it like this. We've had, since Brotherman came out, the first year we came out, we had movie deals on the table from various Hollywood studios and I'm talking about major production studios, including like Columbia Television and Motown and names like that. And this is over the years. This is in the early 90s before we even had internet. Hollywood companies were approaching us. It's not even like we were going to Hollywood pitching. We never pitched this to anybody. It was just making a lot of ground. We did close to 750,000 books at the point where we stopped production. And that was from the books being pulled into the market. We never really did like a big push. And the thing about when you deal with the film, this is what I've learned about it over the years, and even now, doing the relaunch of Brotherman, I've had opportunities, and that is the goal. Part of my goal is to create a creative arts and animation studio. But when you deal with getting into that venue, you have to really look at all aspects of it. You got to look at the financial aspect. What am I getting? Who controls what in the end? Who controls the image? And it's not as simple as, you might think, I just get a TV show, because there's so many politics involved, even when you have people behind you that push and support. Because right now I am dealing with different groups who do believe in Brotherman. They're supporting it, but they also have to deal with another connection of people that they have to deal with. So, it's kind of like a constant grind if you have a specific vision in mind. Now if I just said I don't really care how it comes out or whatever, and I probably just sign and it would have probably been made. But to me, I'm concerned about people utilizing my artwork and my skill to demean and bring down the image of my people. When I look at what we were doing was the opposite. We're trying to lift it up, and I think it can easily be a tool to bring us down. So to basically answer your question, we are on that path of moving into multimedia and entertainment, because we do that, but it's just a process that if it's going to be on a larger scale, we just got to be careful and make sure it's done correctly.
Two questions actually. One, it's public knowledge that Aaron Magruder is not a fan of BET. How do you feel about that?
Oh, about Aaron Magruder not being a fan of BET?
Well, that in your opinion of BET as a whole, because personally, I have personal issues with BET, but I like to hear what other people think as well. It's well documented. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, well, actually, right now, I don't really even watch much TV. I'm always in the production mode. I think as far as BET, from my perspective, a long time ago, I liked it in the early days when they had Teen Summit, and what was it? The sister had the talk show. I forgot her name.
I remember the brother Ed Gordon.
Talk shows and things of that nature in the early years, and then it kind of just went to a lot of music videos. And then on top of that, a lot of music videos didn't really show us in our best light. And so now it's almost like it's not even really like something I really think about, because it's not really impacting my. It's not something that grabs my attention to say, oh man, I got to tune in BET tonight to check out this epic film about such and such, or these new talk shows that are out. That's just like. I got to tune in and check this out. So it's not even on my radar to really think about. So that's why I can't really say much about it now, because I haven't looked at it in so long,
I got you. Keep going on with that. And also, any comparisons to Black Dynamite?
I think it's naturally going to be compared, because it's funny because Brotherman's been out for 22 years. So Black Dynamite is the latest comparison. When we first came out, it was compared to Fat Albert. Within the first couple years, then it was compared to Meteor Man. Then it was compared to Blank Man. Then it was compared to Spawn. Then it was compared to, let's say, in the later years, Hancock. And so that's why I said, and then Undercover Brother. And all those things that it was compared to, it's nothing like. It's only people may equate it because it's a black character. So all black characters, people may assume they're the same. But people don't assume white characters are the same. They always distinctly have, they don't, if you come out with Luke Skywalker, nobody says, is he like Dexter's Lab?
Right.
Yeah. White kid. But when a black character comes out, he must be just like this character. You know what I mean? And that happens a lot where it's funny because in the 22 years Brotherman's been out, if another black character comes out next year, we'll be compared to that. But it's usually from people who don't read the story.
Right.
But people who are fans of the book, they know Brotherman stands on its own. From all those things I named, it has nothing to do with any of them.
Right.
You know.
If Brotherman was in this particular, because I want to kind of understand and have our listeners understand his psyche, what kind of drives him. So we understand that he is in a somewhat of a parallel universe, and Big City is kind of a place of his own. But if he was with us in these United States, what would he say about the state of our community? I mean, the fact that we elected the first black president after 43 tries, they finally elected one at number 44. I mean, what would he say about the United States as and then reelected him, right, Big Bro? What would he say about the state of our world today?
You know what? I actually even try to think about that one because what's difficult in terms of answering that is that the character, it's like pulling somebody, and the reason why I say Star Wars is because people understand Star Wars as being another universe.
Right.
So when you pull somebody from another universe into this universe, it's like pulling somebody from another country into your country to comment on something that, I'll put it like this. If he came into this universe, all of their authority figures look like him. So it's nothing new. You understand what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's why I was saying about Brotherman, what separated Brotherman from all those other films and stuff that I mentioned and comic characters is that he lives in a land of all black characters. So it's basically like he lives in like a Lagos, Nigeria.
Gotcha. Well, I think the Star Wars analogy really, really brings it home because, we know, their tagline and, a land far, far away or whatever it is that they say. And I think we're pretty clear that we're not going to run into any Chewbacca's here in this universe. So it's a good bet that any of the other characters that we might see in Big City, you won't see anywhere else. Which leads me to my next question. Big City. Tell us a little bit about Big City. I mean, we got an idea about Brotherman and who he is. Tell us a little bit about where he lives.
Well, the opening title to the entire series is Welcome to the Last Place on Earth, overrun by the crime and vermin determined to keep it that way. So that title, Welcome to the Last Place on Earth, and when we talk about it now, because I even reflect on when my brother Guy wrote that passage, and that's kind of the setup for the film or the adventure. I always think of it as, where's the last place on Earth that you would think to find this universe? And, I always looked at it as a microcosm of a universe that exists on you or exists in your melanin stream. Basically, it's like when we take in music or we take in visions of what we see on a daily basis, in our minds, we create another universe within our world where it's like these characters that represent my mom and my father and my cousins and my friends and the type of music I like to listen to and all that, but it's all processed in this place in my head this other universe that has its own subway map, because we create our own subway map, we create our own laws. You know, there's no Nike, there's no Adidas, there's no you can just name any name brand product. It doesn't exist in their world. They have their own name brand products, which basically it's like its own sovereign place. They have their own sovereignty, so they don't deal with the same issues that we deal with, because what we wanted to deal with within the book was us dealing with us. So some people thought initially that Brotherman, you know, the ultimate enemy is he's dealing with the man, and he has to bring the man down, because, you know, if we watch any black exploitation films, from which they titled them back in the day, that was always the ultimate enemy. When with us, what we want to do is create a book that's about us, existing in a realm created by us, but it's a facsimile of this universe that we know, but it kind of shows a way for us to deal with healing and rebuilding from this chaos. So Big City it would be that place that would dwarf New York City or Hong Kong, because, you know, the main character, Antonio Valor, grew up on 550th Street. So we have all these different neighborhoods, Central Point. Actually, when you think about it, Gotham City and Metropolis, I don't even think they're broken down the way we broke it down in the map. We have all these different cities like Raystown, Taut Yard, Units, Upper Crust County.
I remember looking at the map one time when I had an opportunity to read it, and it seemed somewhat elaborate. And again, we're talking about, you know, the comic's been out for over 20 years, and it seems oftentimes that, you know, other universes, for lack of a better term, seem to, just to go back and use an old school word, it seemed like they bite in your style, bro, because there's a particular video game, and I won't call them out, but I think you know who I'm talking about, that seemed like they kind of bit a little bit from Brotherman. Any comment on that?
Yeah, this predated that.
Right.
When that game came out, I was just like, yeah, that's what we had. That was the concept. You know, we even have, like, within the Big City is the Big City Metropolitan Orchestra, because we do our own music production and things of that nature. So we had the concept years ago to create the bands and everything that come out of the city would actually become real products for our real world. Even though the gear and stuff that they wear in their world opens the door for us to find designers and come out with our own styles. So to me, Brotherman was a precursor, actually is a precursor to financial independence as well, because all these spin-offs from the book, the TV shows that the kids watch, we have other storylines and subplots from the stories. It's pretty much endless. It's like a Marvel Comics universe, where Brotherman is just a vanguard character. But all those stories can be brought out and turned into, you know, their own intellectual property. They can turn into real-time products. And that is, you know, these are the things that we've been on for 22 years, but there has been a gap in time from, you know, personal issues that I dealt with, which is one reason why the book was on hiatus for a long time.
Big Road.
Now, I'm a comic book head. I have a question for you, and maybe this has already happened, or maybe you're playing for this to happen. Has your universe ever had a white person come through? If not, how would you think they would handle it?
No, it hasn't, because since we came out with the book, we were adamant about that. And it wasn't even a matter of we're not going to put white people in the book. Brotherman was an extension of what I've been doing since I was in high school, or even before that. You know, when I was a kid from like 3rd grade to 6th grade, and I had my comic collection, and my father hit me to the images of the black characters in my comic collection. I mean, I had like Marvel comics, I got Inhumans #1, Defenders. You know, I was straight Marvel comics up and down. And then when I started seeing how the black image was rarely seen writing, and the ones that were in there, a lot of times they were stereotyped. But, I still liked them. I had my Falcon and Black Panther and Luke Cage and all that. But, when I really saw how we were really underplayed, my father didn't tell me what to do. But, at that point, I was in, 7th grade, and I was a little radical back then. And, I burned my comic collection, and I was done with it since then. And, retrospectively, I sometimes say, man, I should have kept them books and cashed them in. But, I was a kid. I didn't know. I didn't think about that type of value.
I think we all had a bunch of comic books back in them days that we wish that we had now. Final question I want to ask you, Dawud, as far as the character, what do you see as far as the future? I mean, if we're having a conversation a year, 5 years from now, where do you hope to see Brotherman and his position in pop culture here? Even though he's not in the United States, we are. So where would you hope to see him?
My objective is to see the character realized, much like Mickey Mouse to Disneyland, or like Luke Skywalker to Lucasfilms, and any other vanguard character which introduced people to an entire universe, where when the character first came out, people probably didn't think it was as big as what it was. Even with Marvel Comics, and DC Comics, Superman was trailblazed, and then Batman, and then came the whole plethora of other superheroes down the line. And with Big City Entertainment, which is my company, it's sometimes it's a lot more difficult. And that's what we did. We broke a lot of ground when we came out. Brotherman opened the doors for a lot of independent black comic publishers, and also showed the way for a lot of the major companies to start capitalizing on the black image. So my thing is, our objective is to continue that and to reap the rewards from it. So then we can create something. It's not about me making Brotherman so I can be rich. I want to create an industry so then kids like me and who may not have the opportunity to work at major studios, but they like to draw, or they want to be down with epic projects, or they want to do films and do a lot of creativity. And a lot of times they don't get the opportunity to do that. So a lot of kids, they stand on the corner with mad skills, but they don't know anything about getting in these studios and stuff.
Right.
I didn't have that experience until I was 30 years old. The first time I had a studio experience, I was airbrushing on the streets, in Philly and Jersey and stuff. So I didn't know anything about it. So I said, I want to create something so then when I'm gone, there's a legacy where people, they can continue making epic films and productions and things like that. And they know that it came from Brotherman, but Brotherman at that point is a household word that I don't have to explain on the phone anymore. You just know when you hear it, like, wow, that's a different story. You know what I mean?
We appreciate you taking the time, Dawud, to join us. I've been a fan of Brotherman for pretty much the entire 22 years that he has been in existence. Read the comics and always been a fan. So I'm actually getting a thrill to have you come on to the show, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much once again. And one more time, tell the listeners how they can get part of the Brotherman Big City universe in their universe.
Oh, yeah, they can go to Brotherman Comics, COMICS.com. It's also available on Amazon.com. Just type Brotherman Comics in Amazon.com banner. And we just recently got picked up at Barnes & Noble, made like their first order. So it's available through Barnes & Noble website. So I just tell people, go there and start asking for it. I don't know how their system works in terms of what availability right now, but if you ask for it, it creates a demand.
Ain't no Steppin, Marcus J. What were you saying, brother?
No, I said I appreciate you all having me on. It's much appreciated.
Definitely. Everybody, thank you once again, everybody. That was Emmy Award winning illustrator for conceptualizing the PSA for the Dalai Lama, for Turner Studios broadcast designer Dawud Anyabwile. We appreciate it, brother. We're going to talk to you another time. Anytime you got something that you want to share with the listeners or anything that comes up, you always got a home here on Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
No doubt.
All right, peace. Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J. We're going to take our final break of the night. Ain't No Half Steppin'. Be back in a minute.